First, we got the seeds. And if you look on the map, longitude-wise, if you go from Afghanistan, it goes straight to like North Georgia and North Alabama. So we brought the seeds and started climatizing them. And then after they would grow there, we took them to Jamaica and climatized them there. They had never seen anything like it. I've done over 20,000 drug crimes. I've only been caught for 2.
Steve James is a career drug trafficker, what we in the business call a lifer. He's a baby boomer, born in a small suburban Georgia community. He began smuggling in bricks of Panama Red from South America in the early 1960s when he was only 13 years old. Later, after he graduated from college, he moved to Jamaica and became the first person to ever grow Indica on the island. He ended up successfully smuggling over 3 tons of high-grade Indica bud from Jamaica into the U.S., and he got away with it. Today, he's retired and out of the business, and he has a book out right now about his experience called Indica, which you can pick up on Amazon. For this and more war stories with the oldest drug trafficker we have ever had on The Connect, head over to Patreon right now, patreon.com/The Connect Show. Without further ado, I give you Steve James, the Indica King, right here on The Connect with Johnny Mitchell.
We finally hooked up with some Colombian guys, and we paid for like 1 key, and they fronted the other. Sold that in a week and got back down there, and my buddy David says, they're going to kill us. He said, the guy told me that it didn't matter if we had the money or didn't have the money. The only thing that he was glad about is he didn't have to go to Atlanta to kill us. He could kill us right there in Miami.
That's when I see the lights behind me start to flash. And I didn't even think, I just hit it. I was driving like my life depended on it. And then I parked the car, hopped out, closed the door, and I started running.
And he pulls out a burner, a shank, it's like 6 inches. And he passes it to me. And he goes, here, that's yours. Don't ever leave the cell block without this. He was the reason I made it out of that place alive.
Steve Daniel.
Yeah.
How are you, sir?
I'm good today.
Yeah. You are the elder statesman of podcast guests on this show. You are by far not only the oldest guest, but the oldest hustler, kingpin that we've had on. It's an honor and a privilege. Let's get right into it. You are from northern Georgia.
Yeah.
Grew up in the 50s and 60s. Tell us about the culture. Tell us about the history of hustling and money making and business in your family that goes back generations, right? To the segregation of the South and how that led to you initially getting involved with pot dealing.
Yeah. I grew up in rural North Georgia, about 3.5 miles from the Tennessee line. And my folks were into cattle. And my grandpa was the moneymaker of the whole family. And he had a big cattle truck. And what we'd do is, I was a little kid, 5, 6 years old, and he'd throw me up in the cattle truck, and we'd go visit farmers. And farmers had no way to transport. Transport is everything. It's transporting in the drug business is everything. If you're not transporting, you're not making money. So my grandpa had this big cattle truck, and he'd go up to a farmer, and the farmer would have 5 or 6 cows that he wanted to sell. And my grandpa would say, look, I can load these up in the truck, take them to the market, and you'll get whatever they tell you. We don't know what you're going to get. But I've got money in my pocket, and I can pay you here on the spot for your cows. And you don't have to worry about it. And it will be in cash, and it won't be a check. Or I can charge you a haul bill of $25, and I'll bring you back the check and I'll hand it to you, but it'll be whatever they make at the market. So what do you want to do? Take cash now or bet on the market? And so most of them would take cash, we'd load it up, we'd take them to a holding pen, fill them full of salt and water and feed, and make $20 on every cow that we purchased.
So your grandpa was just middlemanning.
Yeah, he just buy and sell, buy and sell. That's all we did, buy and sell.
Classic. That's the way to be.
He would not hold these cows more than 4 or 5 days. Yeah.
Just like your pot pounds.
Yeah.
Just marking them up.
Turn.
Yep. Wow. And so and you recall, being like in Sunday school as a child in the 50s and you'd have $200 and $300 in your pocket.
Yeah.
Which is an unfathomable amount of money for a kid in the 50s in Georgia.
It was embarrassing when they called me out on it.
Wow.
Nobody had any money at Sunday school. And I don't know why the Sunday school teacher asked how much money does people have. Yeah. But I just happened, I'd sold a cow and cashed a check and had it in my wallet.
Yeah. And so that was your earliest lesson in business. Yeah. Was from your grandfather.
He said, you want to go someplace good for lunch today? We're at a stock market. And I said, yeah. I said, but Grandpa, you didn't bring any cows down here. And he said, watch this. So he found a guy that wanted to sell a cow and not put it through the auction. So Grandpa just, paid him cash right there. So it didn't go through the auction. He paid him like $300. And he got a guy that wanted to buy a cow. And so Grandpa said, here, you need this cow right here. And the guy said, I don't know. And $325. No, he started out $350. He said, no, I'll let you have it for $325. And the guy bought it. So my grandpa didn't even have a cow at the auction, but he bought one and sold one, made $25, and we went and ate.
Yeah. And so you knew that is what you wanted from a young age, is money. You saw the freedom and the power that money provides. You didn't want to be one of the men in your town that would go off to Chattanooga to work in a plant, which is what your father did, I think, right?
Correctly.
I think by 8th grade, you were making more money than he was.
Correct.
So do you remember getting introduced to pot for the first time?
Oh, yeah. I had a couple of friends, Bobby and Johnny, that would come and visit. What they did was across the street from my house was a store, and this old lady ran the store, and these were her grandkids that would come to visit. First, they were stationed out of Washington, D.C., and we got to be friends, and they would stay for 2 weeks in the winter and 2 weeks in the summer, and we ran around together. And then they got stationed in the Panama Canal Zone. So one summer, they bring weed with them when they come.
Right.
Yeah.
How did their father work for the government?
He was a colonel,
okay, so he was part of the military.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he was bigwig.
Wow. And so they were able, his kids could load up
and fly on the plane.
Wow.
Yeah.
Without getting searched.
Nothing.
It's like,
how are you going to get a 14-year-old kid? What are you going to do?
Who has that connection?
Yeah.
So 14 years old, these brothers would bring back pounds of Panama Red.
Yeah, kilos.
Right. What was Panama Red like?
It was a nice, really good weed, probably 3 or 4% at the time.
But that was considered good weed back then.
And it wasn't very stemmy or seedy. So it was really good. One brother was 14, the other brother's 12, and I was right in the middle. I was like 13. So it was a good deal.
And you were a pothead. You liked smoking pot.
Yeah.
You still smoke pot.
Yeah.
You're high. A little high right now from the doobie you smoked before this interview.
Maybe.
But was it the natural next step to sell it for these guys?
Yeah. They said, what we did was they brought some, and it was about Christmas time, when they brought like a kilo, and we took it and broke it down, and we didn't have scales. So 1 finger would be a nickel bag, 2 fingers would be a dime, 3 fingers they called a lid, and 4 fingers was an ounce. We sold for 20. So you could get a $5, nickel bag. But the thing about it is, we were only paying $9 a kilo, which is 36 ounces about. So you sell your first dime bag, you paid for your whole kilo.
So
after that,
it's all profit.
All profit, dude. It was easy.
Hey guys, I know a lot has changed since the days that Steve was in the game. One of those big changes is personal hygiene. You can't have fumes anymore. MANDO is leading that change. Check it out. MANDO was created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. Does that 3-in-1 shampoo from those leading brands leave you needing a second shower just a few hours after the first? From the founders of Lumi, MANDO Whole Body Deodorant is helping men conquer their odor in a new way. Formulated with mandelic acid, MANDO has long-lasting 72-hour odor control that actually stops odor before it starts. Best part is you can put MANDO anywhere. Pits, packages, feet, skin folds, back, knees, everywhere. To top it all off, MANDO's cologne quality scents were created with men in mind. Pro tip, try their best-selling scent, Bourbon Leather. It's a game changer. I love it. I haven't worn any kind of scent cologne since I was in high school, but since MANDO hit me off with their Bourbon Leather, I am smelling fresh. My girl is loving it. Once you experience fresher underarms, a fresher package, and fresher feet, you'll never go back. The market for men's products is growing, but let's be honest, a lot of them suck. I'm constantly on the road doing shows, filming episodes for my channel, and between traveling, hotel gyms, hotel rooms, being on the road, running around, I get pretty rancid. MANDO sent a care package and I gave them a try while we were just in Florida. And let me tell you, this stuff stood up to the challenge of the heat and the humidity down there. I was honestly skeptical because I've been let down so many times by other products, but my pits and balls smelled fresh and inviting all day. I know this because I made my producer do smell checks once an hour. MANDO deodorant is seriously safe to use anywhere on your body. I'm talking about your pits, your genitals, belly button, belly cracks, stinky crevices, even your feet. MANDO Whole Body Deodorant is powerful enough for the toughest body odor, but gentle enough to use everywhere, allowing you to put MANDO on family jewels without any worry because MANDO is aluminum-free, baking soda-free, cruelty-free, dye-free, and it's also vegan. MANDO's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick of deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, plus free shipping. Luckily, I have a discount code to help you get hooked on my favorite smelling whole body deodorant on the market. New customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code Mitchell, MITCHELL, at shopmando.com. That's SHOPMANDO.com. It's time to smell better naked. Trust me, your partner will thank you. Let's get back into the episode.
So you became, at 13 years old, the distributor of this Panama Red, these bricks of Panama Red.
That they were bringing out of Panama. Yeah.
And you started just by going around to the kids in your neighborhood that
they were riding around with baskets on their bicycles selling weed. But I in our community, I knew that wasn't going to last. Somebody's going to get busted, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I had a friend whose daddy had the alcohol distribution and the gambling distribution of ML King Boulevard, Big Nine back then, as they called it, before it was ML King. You know, that was before King was assassinated, you know. We're talking 64, 65, 66.
And this is in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Chattanooga. And there are all these nightclubs. And so this kid that I knew, his daddy would load him up with liquor and punch boards and gambling devices, and he would deliver them to the black nightclubs. So I said, if he's going to be going up there every Thursday afternoon, I'm going to cut him in. So I went to him, and he said he'd take me up there and introduce me and everything. And I took a big bag, a grocery sack bag of nickel bags, and I went up there and started selling to all the black people at the nightclubs.
Yeah, and you're 13, 14 years old.
I was 13, yeah.
And this is pre-Civil Rights Act. This is segregation.
Yeah.
And I think in your book you talk about the power of that white people and segregation had. You were little white boys walking through a black ghetto neighborhood, but you couldn't be touched.
Right.
Because nobody dare lay a finger on a black person, especially on a white kid or a white
back
person.
Then, yeah.
Did that cloud did that make you prejudice? Like, did you grow up with the prejudice in your family?
No, I grew up with black people. I knew black people. Okay, our maid Effie, she practically raised me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and she had all of her nephews and nieces and everything, and I go play with them.
Yeah.
All my clothes that I'd outgrow would go to her.
Right.
So when I'd go to school, I would see black folks wear my clothes.
Right. Right. So you weren't taught white supremacy by your parents, your grandparents?
No, it was so tough. Everybody was trying to hustle.
Right.
I mean, if a black guy could hustle, he hustled,
Right.
My grandpa didn't get in the way of hustle.
Right.
And when our school got segregated, and I was playing football, I'd take a pickup truck and go pick up the black football players and take them to practice and take them home because they didn't have a ride. And if they didn't have a ride, they couldn't practice and they weren't going to be on the team.
Right. And you guys weren't going to be very good.
And we weren't going to win. I didn't care if they were green.
Yeah.
I wanted football players.
Right. So, but it's amazing the salesmanship and the mouthpiece and the balls at 13. You're going around and selling, talking to bar owners in the Big Nine, this district in Chattanooga, and fronting them the weed.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
how did it work?
I owned like quarter pounds, they'd pay, but on a pound that I'd front a pound.
So yeah, how did that work? How much would you give each bar, and then how much would you make?
I was selling them, ounces were going for 20. Okay. So there's 16 ounces. And so I let them have for $160, $10, and they would double their money. I always put anybody that I worked with, I wanted them to be able to double their money.
Right. And you're paying $9 for a kilo.
Yeah.
So you're paying $4.50 a pound and making how much off that?
Like $155.
Wow.
Back then.
That's more than most grown men were making probably in a week at the plant.
Oh, yeah. Average salary is $100 a week back then.
Wow. So what was when you were 14, how much money do you think you had? What'd you do with your cash?
I got a safe for my birthday. Everybody asks, what do you want for your birthday? What do you want for your birthday? And I had taken my money in a ball jar and it had gone across the creek and hid it in a root ball. A tree had fallen over and I hid my money in a ball jar. So when I got my safe, when I think I was 14 years old for my birthday, I got a safe and I lugged it upstairs and put my money in it, man. I felt like a businessman.
Yeah. So you knew about saving. That was like, you just stashed your money.
Yeah.
Did your parents know what you were doing?
Not at that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
You think they would have been proud of you?
Not at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you move a couple of loads of this Panama Red for the neighbor boys who are bringing it back.
Yeah.
How many times did you do that before you had to find a new connection?
We did it for 10 years.
10 years.
From the time I was 12 till I was 22, what happened is one of the brothers got killed in Vietnam. And when that did, the older brother had just finished University of Georgia, got a big job in Atlanta, and he was out of it.
Right.
So after 10 years, our little marijuana ring spun out.
Right. But what did you think you made in 10 years?
Oh, geez, I don't know. Some years, my college years, I probably made 40 grand a year. Wow. Just never,
the late 60s.
Yeah.
It's like making $200,000 a year now.
Oh, yeah.
And they would bring, it was basically, they would only go back to Panama once a year. So you had
twice a year.
Okay.
They would bring it up in the summertime and in Christmas.
Right. So you basically,
twice a year.
You had to make loads stretch for 6 months.
Yeah.
And how many kilos would you move every 6 months, you think?
They would bring up about, I don't know, between the two of them, about 100 kilos.
Wow. So about 200 pounds.
Yeah. In duffel bags and stuff. I would have to go with them I went over there and would pony back some
Mhm.
to get the weight right,
Yeah. So you're moving like 400 pounds a year as a teenager.
On the ML King.
Wow. And that's all pushed in through the black neighborhoods.
Yeah. And most of it went out in I went into a nightclub in the afternoon, and there was a guy sitting at a desk like this, and he had just a pile of matches sitting there, and he was taking a nickel bag and putting them in match boxes. And he would put 5 in a nickel bag. He'd make up 5 match boxes, and they'd sell them for $2 a piece.
Yeah.
So he doubled his money.
Right. So everybody was making money.
Everybody was making money. I made sure everybody made lots of money. That way they'd be happy.
Yeah. But you were the exclusive distributor.
Yeah.
In this area of Chattanooga.
Yeah. For that Panama Red.
Yeah. And then, so did you think, okay, I want to step this up after the Panama connection went away, or did you retire? What were your goals after that?
I lost my point people.
Yeah.
When you lose your point people keep you insulated.
Mm-hmm.
The point of the spear is what gets broken off.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be toward the middle of the spear.
Right.
I want somebody else to go, open up, make the connections, and then bring it to me after they got it all done. I didn't want to go down there for any initial anything. I wanted it, kind of wrapped up nice when I went there.
Were you worried about law enforcement?
Not back
this
then.
time?
No, not back when I was a little kid.
Yeah. There were no feds. There was no DEA even.
No, nothing like that.
When did you get into cocaine?
I did cocaine in college a little bit, not much.
It was really expensive back then.
Yeah. And it wasn't any good.
Right. But after you got out of college, you graduated from the University of Georgia with honors.
Yeah.
Got laid a bunch.
Yeah.
You lived in basically like a hippie commune.
Yeah. We rented a huge mansion, and we had I had 4 girls and 2 guys living with me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody had their own bedroom. It was like hippie town. It was like Animal House. With girls.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Like, you're this Southern good old boy. You have these Southern good old boy roots, but then it's meeting with the time of the hippie movement in the late '60s in Vietnam, and it's one of the best eras to be a drug dealer.
Yeah.
Because the markets are opening up. And then in the 70s, there's a whole bunch of new affluence, and then cocaine starts making its way into the greater America.
Yeah.
You moved to Atlanta after college?
Yeah.
You start selling computers?
Yeah.
Which are brand new, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Did you have success at that?
Oh, yeah. I did. I had a lot of success. Made good money. And
how much would you make selling computers? Like, how did that market work? What did you?
Back then I made, you gotta remember what year it was, $70,000-$80,000, where most people were making at that time $12,000.
Yeah. And you were a party boy.
Yeah. And we go to all these clubs and do cocaine and all this stuff.
When did you get into moving it?
Let's see. About 1970, 77, 78, 79.
And who was your first connect?
My first connect was my first connect. Excuse me. Happens to be my wife's ex-husband.
Right. Your current wife's ex-husband.
My current wife's husband that passed away was my first connect.
Wow. And he was a guy. He was just a guy like you, a white guy.
Yeah, computers. We're all in computer business.
Was he bringing it up from Miami?
No, he had a contact in Birmingham.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And we'd go to Birmingham and get it.
And so you're just small time at the beginning.
Yeah, selling ounces and stuff like that.
But then you stepped it up.
Yeah.
You make your way down to Florida. Tell us about how that happened, and then how you really get connected with Colombians.
Yeah. We got down there and started trying to find some wholesale distributor for cocaine. You know, back then cocaine was going like for $64,000 a key.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
but we were buying it and selling it for 100 grams, so there's plenty of money to be made.
100 per gram.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Ounces were $2,800.
Yeah.
You know, so what we did is we finally hooked up with some Colombian guys, me and a buddy of mine by the name of David Harper. And David, we had some money and we paid for like one key and they fronted the other. Okay. And these Colombians, we didn't get our conversation right. Somehow they expected us to grab that other key and like be back the next day to pay them. Well, my buddy said, you know, I'm going to stay here. Okay. So the Colombians kind of sat on him
Right.
while I left.
Just as insurance.
Yeah.
In case you didn't
they
come
didn't
back.
know us, you know, and we were leaving, you know. So I hustled my ass up there, sold 2 kilos of cocaine in a week.
Wow. Just in grams and 8 balls?
No,
or-
in ounces.
to other dealers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes half pounds, you know, quarter pounds, half pounds, stuff like that. And sold that in a week and got back down there. And my buddy David says, they're going to kill us.
Even though you have the money.
I said, what do you mean they're going to kill us? And he said, the guy told me that it didn't matter if we had the money or didn't have the money, he said, the only thing that he was glad about is he didn't have to go to Atlanta to kill us. He could kill us right there in Miami. And I said, what? He said, man, it's all messed up. So me and him went to meet these guys thinking this could be it, you know, and we had money to buy extra, you know, and as it turned out, the guy that I had met when I was a little kid in Panama was these guys' boss.
Right. Right. So that was just.
I like to, when Jorge walked through that big fat Panamanian with that little bitty stupid mustache he wore, I like that, man. I thought they're going to kill us. And then here I am with a guy, I'm 30 years old or something, 28, and I had known this guy half my life since I was 14.
Yeah. He was the guy that was growing the pot and selling to your neighbor boys that was the pot that you were selling for them.
Yeah.
And so you had actually ended up meeting him when you were a teenager.
Yeah, down in Panama. In Panama.
Yeah.
He left Panama because of, corruption, Noriega and his mama, and brought them to the States, and it was coincidence.
Yeah.
It just freaking.
That's crazy.
That's crazy, man. It's crazy.
And he was just with you.
Yeah. And so, no.
They were actually planning on.
Yeah, the 2 Colombians had brought me there to say, these are the 2 guys we're going to whack.
So Jorge was ready to kill you, but then he saw it was you and was like, oh, okay, I guess not. That's how Colombians did business back then.
Yeah.
Even though you guys had the money for the buy, you just hadn't brought it fast enough.
Right.
Wow.
We didn't, when.
Did that ring alarm bells? Did you say, wow, this is a dangerous business?
Yeah. But when I got Jorge, my price went from $64,000 a key to $32,000.
Wow. And could you double your money on that?
Double my money. What I would do is back then at 32,000 a kilo is less than $1,000 an ounce. And back then, ounces were going for 2,000. So I could dump off the kilo and say, here it is.
Yeah.
I didn't have to break it down or anything
Wow.
after a while.
So you were moving about 2 keys a month,
Right.
and making an easy $80,000.
Oh, yeah.
And then the pot comes back into play.
Yeah. What happens is we all got addicted.
Addicted to the money?
And coke.
Yeah.
I mean, it was crazy, we were in Miami, and we were sitting at a kitchen table with these Colombians, me and my buddy David, And they said, you want to smoke some crack? We said, what is it? Oh, it's hard cocaine. So I remember that. I remember that very well, that episode, because when we sat down, it was daylight in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And then after a while, it got dark. And then after a while, it got daylight. And then after a while, it got dark. I said, I've got to get the hell out of here. Well, I had sat in the same clothes at the same at the same kitchen table for 2 friggin' days. Couldn't wait till we cooked up the next rock. I said, oh, dude, this is the devil.
Yeah.
So there was 4 of us that we used to meet at my house. I had a big ranch house, and we decided this is killing everybody. We would take 100 pounds of pot and drop it off at a guy's house, and a month later, we'd go by and pick up the money. Mm. No big deal. Mm-hmm. What if he got into it and he smoked an ounce a week? Big deal. Mm. You drop off a kilo of cocaine to a guy. Mm. That's a different story. Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
They start doing it, they can't control. Mm. They don't keep up with their money. I took so many good pot guys and ruined them with cocaine.
Wow.
Ruined them. Ruined their marriages, ruined everything, And whereas when there were pot guys, they had families and everybody was cool, So we decided cocaine. In 1985, there was this kid that had gotten a scholarship. He was an All-American. I think his name was Bales or something like that. And he died of a cocaine overdose.
Yeah, Len Bias.
Yeah, he died of a cocaine overdose. One of these guys. Anyway.
Yeah, it was Len Bias.
Anyway, and he was a senior in college and had the future in front of him. And after he had been awarded that night, he ended up ODing and dying. Mm-hmm. And so we decided, we're ruining people with this crap, And we decided we're going to get back in the marijuana business, something that we really love. Mm-hmm. And that's when we made the decision to go to Jamaica.
That's right.
And set everything up. We were just sick of it, man.
How did you, and this is kind of an ingenious move, you discovered that Indica could be grown on the same lines of latitude as it is in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
So take us through how you built the farm up and how you got the seeds. Yeah, bring us through that whole thing.
Yeah. This process took probably 7 or 8 years in total. First, we got the seeds. And if you look on the map, on a map, longitude-wise, if you go from Afghanistan, it goes straight to like North Georgia and North Alabama. Mm. So we brought the seeds and started climatizing them, getting them so that they grow. And then after they would grow there, we took them to Jamaica and climatized them there. Mm-hmm. You're talking 4 years.
Right. You actually went to Afghanistan.
Yeah, a buddy went to Afghanistan, brought the seeds back in his hair.
Wow.
Yeah, smuggled them back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you plant them in Georgia. That's what climatizing is?
Yeah.
Is you replant them, grow more plants.
Get the seeds from them.
Right.
And then we took them to Jamaica and did the same thing to where we could, put a crop in.
Right. How many seeds to make your first crop?
Oh, I don't know.
Thousands?
Yeah, 4,000 or 5,000 seeds. We ended up with about 1,800 pounds.
Right.
Out of about, 3,600 plants.
Where in Jamaica?
Right outside Montego Bay, about 2 hours.
How much land did you have to buy?
Well, it was a valley that we got. Mm. And it was probably, 40 acres or 50. Yeah. Wasn't huge.
But you hired a whole team, a whole team of Jamaican laborers.
Yeah. What happened is after we got the land, you have to use locals. Mm. I mean, you can't be bringing in outside people.
Mm-mm.
You know, you got to use what's there. So these guys have been growing pot all their life. You know, they just never had seen seeds that look like the seeds that we had were 4 times larger than the seeds they had ever seen. They thought they were like pinto bean seeds or something. Yeah,
Right.
they thought, you know, they thought they were beans
Yeah.
instead of marijuana seeds,
Yeah.
you know. So I remember getting the guys together, and we had a motel room at the time. And let me tell you about Rastafari's and Jamaicans.
Yeah.
They do dreadlocks.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason they call them dreadlocks. And I've seen this done, and what they do is they go out and get fresh cow manure. Okay? And they roll it in their hair and make cones.
Right.
Cones, like
Right.
8 or 10 cones. And this is fresh green cow manure.
Ew.
And they sit in the sun all day long till it dries. All right? And then they stand up and shake their head. And when they shake their head, flies everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay. So here I'm in a motel room with 5 of these guys that had just finished doing their hair a couple of days before. You talk about odor, you know, they don't really bathe a whole lot, and soap's not really, and nobody had shoes. And you get in a tight little motel room with 5 of these guys. Jesus Christ, about make you throw up, dude.
Right. They're dirty. They're just dirtier than any rednecks from Georgia that you could imagine.
Oh,
they're complete mountain people out there.
Yeah.
And they're either farmers, like subsistence farmers, or they're marijuana farmers. This is what they do.
So we hired these guys and got the land, and
you had to pay the local chieftains.
Yeah, we
right?
gave there was a policeman there and a religious leader, and we both gave them watches. You know,
that's all it took.
Yeah, watches. Yeah.
Wow. Do they know the kind of money you stood to make?
Well, they thought we were foolish.
Right.
A couple of white boys gonna come to Jamaica and
do
good. Yeah.
Right.
Give us a watch. Sure. Use the land.
Right.
We don't care.
And they were there to protect you guys too.
Yeah.
Right.
Plus, after the crops, we'd give them a kickback.
Right.
After every crop.
Right.
Yeah.
And you had distribution already set up.
Oh, yeah.
In the States. What did that look like? Who and where were you moving it to?
We sold all over Atlanta, Chattanooga, Nashville, Cincinnati, Ohio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Washington, D.C., Maryland.
How many people did you have running for you?
Oh, there was about probably 8.
Wow.
8 guys
and you're
making trips.
100-pound runs?
Yeah, and more. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So you crop your first 1,800 plants, or you got 1,800 pounds?
Yeah.
Okay. So you got about 1,000 kilos on your first crop.
Yeah.
Wow. And then tell us how you got 1,000 kilos of indica from Jamaica to the States.
On a boat. We would buy boats, and we would have to hire a captain. And so we would own the boat, but we needed somebody to drive it. So we got to a Swedish guy that, he was a gamer. And, he showed us how to load the boat and put the pod, tear the boat up, put the pod in. It just looked like a regular boat,
Yeah.
And then when we got to shore, we'd have to rip up the boards and,
Where would you guys unload?
We did it in different places. We had a guy that worked at a state park in Florida.
Where in Florida?
Up the coast. We're on
like the western coast?
Yeah.
Okay, Gulf of Mexico?
Yeah, it wasn't there. We would come up from Miami and keep going up, up to the left side of Florida,
And you weren't worried about Coast Guard?
No, not at the time. No, we were just making our run.
Yeah.
We're gonna do it. We would come this far. We're gonna stop now.
Cowboys, you guys
Yeah,
were.
we were. We didn't have a lot of fear in us.
So you had the kilos built into inside of the panels
Well, it was
of the boat.
What we did is we created our own press,
Right.
and we would press out 20-pound bales.
Right.
That way, kilos were too, it'd be too many of
Right.
them,
So you press, so that's how many bales? 50 bales?
Yeah.
1,000 pounds or 1,000
Yeah.
kilos? 50
Yeah.
bales.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And it's in like a commercial, is it like is it a yacht?
It's like a 38-foot fishing vessel.
Okay.
Yeah. That
Okay.
had plenty of open space and stuff where you could
Right.
line the walls and line the
Right.
floor,
How much money had you invested up to this point?
In the grow.
Yeah, in the grow. When you talk about buying the land, buying the boat, hiring the labor, and this is all funded on cocaine, by the way.
Right. Okay, you hire 5 guys.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they go to the farm. They take their machetes. Okay. Well, these 5 guys have 5 wives, and they have 5 children each.
Yeah.
And by the time we got ready to plant, there was a village there, 30 people running around,
Right.
half of them under the age of 5 or 10.
Yeah.
Just a little village,
Yeah.
Playing soccer, kicking around,
Yeah.
everybody barefooted,
Yeah.
eating rice and bananas,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's a village around your pot field.
Yeah, they built little huts and their wives and
Mhm.
everything, and they'd come out of their hut and
Yeah.
go to work and go
Yeah.
back to their hut. We didn't transport anybody anywhere.
Right.
Once they got to the farm, they stayed there.
Yeah. So but what was
We
this
brought
investment?
food in.
What was the total investment?
Jeez, we were probably 300,000 or 400,000 into
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
We had spent.
It's a big risk.
If it didn't work, all those years would have been for nothing.
Yeah. 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 You probably would have gone bankrupt.
Yeah.
So you get the first load of 1,000 keys, makes it.
Yeah.
You guys unload.
Yeah.
How long does it take you to get rid of 1,000 bricks?
In 20-pound bales, but we broke it into pounds and
Mhm.
stuff like that. Well, I remember I had a ranch house, okay, 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, sat up on a hill, very secluded, all right, and you would go up the hill and pull in behind the house, and there was enough room behind the house to park 20 cars,
Mhm.
okay, and then I had a detached garage. And above the garage was an apartment.
Mm.
Okay. And in that detached garage, I'd have like 8 people in there bagging pounds of pot.
Wow.
It'd take them 2 days
Yeah.
to bag that into single pounds of pot.
And for people who don't know, let's explain the difference between Indica and the traditional sativa. Yeah. And why Indica is better and was more expensive.
Yeah. The sativa was running about 3 or 4%, THC, and it was real stemmy and real seedy.
Mm-hmm.
And Jamaica, sativa, I've seen sativa plants 10, 15 feet high. Okay.
Right.
But indica only grows about 5 feet high, and it looks like a Christmas tree.
Right.
And buddy, and the weed that comes off that is a 20% THC
Right.
compared.
Wow.
So you could take 1 bag, an ounce of sativa and smoke it in a week, whereas you take a 1/4 ounce of indica and smoke it in a week.
And sativa was the main thing on the market.
Yeah.
That's what the Mexicans were pushing.
Colombians,
the Colombians.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody had.
That was
sativa.
like when my generation thinks about our parents smoking joints like they're cigarettes.
Yeah.
That was the sativa because it hardly did anything to you.
I wouldn't leave the house until I had 5 joints rolled up.
Right.
Once indica got there, I just need to roll one.
Right. So this is completely revolutionary when it comes to the marijuana market.
Well, back then, sativa was selling for $80 an ounce, and we were selling for $300.
That's wild. I remember what I used to pay $300 an ounce in 2004.
Yeah.
So imagine in 1986, 87, you're getting $300 an ounce.
Nobody'd ever seen anything like it.
Were you worried that because of that price point, you were going to limit your market?
We didn't care. It took me like 2 months to sell the first load.
Right. So was that the same amount of time it would have taken you to move sativa?
Yeah.
You didn't really see any difference, and
no.
your profit was 10 times as great.
Yeah.
You claim to be the first person to grow indica in Jamaica.
Yeah. Absolutely.
How do you know that for a fact?
The way our farmers reacted when those purple leaves first popped out. They had never seen anything like it. They had been growing pot in Jamaica their whole entire life.
Right.
And when these wide, big, broad leaves started popping out, these leaves were 3 times or 4 times wider than the leaves of a sativa plant.
Yeah.
They were,
right.
I could just tell they had never, ever seen anything like that in their life.
Right. Right.
And once they got a crop through and they smoked a joint, dude, they knew.
Rastas know their pot.
Oh, yeah.
So that was completely new to them.
Yeah.
Since then, did you think other growers in Jamaica adopted indica after you?
Yeah, or strains.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten a load out of Jamaica in years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so you make your first trip. It takes you 2 months. What do you profit off of 1,800 pounds of indica in 1987?
Geez, I don't even know. Over $1 million. Easy.
Wow.
Yeah.
$1 million to your pocket.
Yeah.
Off of 1,800 pounds.
Yeah.
Wow. So the game has changed. You're a kingpin now.
Yeah.
Did you feel like you had achieved like your boyhood dream? You go from selling $5 nickels on the streets of Chattanooga, and now you're bringing in loads from Jamaica.
I remember this. I was catching a plane to Cincinnati, and I went through the airport, and they had magazines for sale, and I bought a Gentleman's Quarterly, and I was looking at on the airplane up there, and there was a suit in there that I thought, man, I've got to have this suit. It was a 2-piece bone. They called it, it was like vanilla bone. It wasn't white. It was like a bone suit. And I said, man, I've got to have this. And in the magazine, it sold in different shops, but it sold in Cincinnati. And I was flying to Cincinnati. I was in a big fancy hotel, and I called them up. They sent a guy over, brought the suit, had it tailored, took it back, fixed it, brought it back to me, along with a pair of $800 loafers. This was in 1989.
Mm-hmm.
$800 pair of shoes, $2,000 pair of shoes. My silk shirt was like $150. I knew I'd made it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you can pick out clothes from Gentleman's Quarterly, fly to the place that they're being sold and buy them.
Yeah. You were making cocaine money off of weed.
Yes.
Yeah. So you got distributors that are taking it all across the country in 100, 200-pound runs.
Yeah.
Now you go back and plant a new crop back in Jamaica. How long does it take you to crop? How many plants are needed to get 1,800 pounds of indica?
About 3,600 plants.
Wow. How long does it take to crop from the time you plant?
90 to 120 days down there.
Did you spend the time over there, or were you in Miami waiting for when you were during grow season?
I would stay in Miami, and I would go when there would be an event at the farm. When they got the land, I was there. When they hired the farmers, I was there. When they planted the first crop, I was there. When they harvested the first crop, I was there. You know, when they loaded the boat, I was there.
How did you start to launder your money when you made your first millions? Where did you put your money?
I bought land.
In the States?
Yeah, unimproved land.
Mm-hmm.
Just farmland.
Yeah.
Unimproved land, stuff like that. I also had a guy that it wasn't much money, but it was enough to where what I would do is there was a guy that I'd give him $2,500 in cash, and he would write me a company check for $2,000, and I would put $2,000 in my bank account every week. Yeah. So that's $100,000 a year. Right. Well, that $100,000 a year was legit money that he 1099 me.
Right.
Okay, and then I'd pay taxes on it. Yep. And I buy houses, and when they want to see my bank account, I'd show them my bank account. And when I go to the bank, they'd say, "How much money do you make?" And I go, "Oh, about $2,000 a week," and then, and I showed the money.
Yeah. So you had a legitimate income.
Oh yeah,
legitimate as an employee.
Oh yeah, that's how I rented apartments and bought apartments. You ain't going to go down there and give cash for an apartment. I show my bank statement. Yeah,
What was the job that you were supposed to be getting this money for?
Oh, I was contract labor.
Okay. Wow. It's good money for a contractor back then, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. So you had your bases covered. You never got arrested. You never took one pinch throughout this whole era leading up to the Jamaican grows.
Yeah. We did the Jamaican grow, got in, got out clean. Everybody that went down there made money, got in, and got out.
You did 4 grows?
Yeah, about 4 grows.
You did 4 crops.
Yeah.
Was that the plan at the start? Was just to do a handful of these big crops, move it, and then get out? Or what made you stop? We didn't even know if
we could do it.
So why'd you stop?
We stopped because of...
Now you're like, I don't know. We should have kept going.
To me, like you said, it was just farming.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted the weed. I didn't care where it came from.
But you're making $1 million a run farming
over a year's period of time.
So then why would you quit that?
Well,
did it get hot? Did you ever get robbed? Considering Jamaica's a poor country,
we got robbed. Jamaica is different. If a white man makes eye contact with a Jamaican, they owe him $1.
They owe him $1?
Yeah, if you make eye contact with a Jamaican.
That's an unwritten rule,
yeah.
Or in the Constitution?
Yeah, well, you just didn't make so much eye contact. Yeah.
So you got the best pot in Jamaica. Nobody's ever seen Indica before.
Right.
This is a poor country. You got a bunch of rude boys that have nothing to live for. I imagine you are a target.
Yeah. We had a warehouse there, and right before we were starting to make one run, I was in Miami, and we got robbed.
Mm-hmm.
The whole load was gone.
Cleaned out.
And
then there was another crazy guy that came down and kidnapped the wife of one of your business partners, right?
Right. He kidnapped the daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, was going to hold her for ransom and stuff like that. So it got crazy. And then, Indy got sick. She got tuberculosis.
Who's Indy?
That was my buddy's daughter. Mm-hmm. And she was about 4 or 5 years old.
Mm. And so you decided let's finish it out here and get out.
Yeah, and we got out while we could get out clean. Because, we were getting too familiar down there.
Right.
We had overstayed our welcome.
Right. Smart. So you were even though you were a cowboy, you kind of knew, you always had like this internal radar that told you where when your time was coming to an end.
Yeah.
And it put you a step ahead. Tell us about the last load that you brought back from Jamaica.
The last load that we brought back from Jamaica we knew it was going to be the last load. We were ready to get the hell out of there. And as we were coming from Jamaica to Miami, the boat started taking on a little water, and, the farther we got, the more water, and we started the pumps on it, and we started pumping water out. Everybody's getting scared. We had a Swedish captain, and he wasn't very religious, but there was this good old Catholic boy on the boat, and buddy, he was running his rosaries, you know, and everybody thought they were going to die. The captain called the Coast Guard, called Mayday, because the boat was sinking. And we finally got to Miami just as the boat was about to go under. We took axes and we basically just dove in and started chopping the boat to pieces, getting the bales out and throwing them up on the land. And I kind of kept up with the number of bales. I knew there was one more bale down there, and I just had to dive down there and get it and push it up to the top, man. You know,
you dove down into the water.
Yeah, I dove into the boat as the boat was sinking and sucking water down in there, and I pushed that bell up with all my might, and we got it out of there, and the freaking boat sunk, and we just left it there.
Wow.
We just, you know.
Do you know if the cops ever recovered the boat?
Yeah, I'm sure they recovered the boat because it was kind of it's kind of sticking out a little bit, you know.
It's bobbing, before it goes all the way down. Maybe they never found it though.
Oh,
you know?
yeah, they found it. I'm sure they found it. But we were able to load up in vans on the dock there and get out of there.
And you unloaded in Miami?
Yeah.
That's so crazy to think about now. Miami's the most like developed, well-guarded, you know, seaport city on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And you guys were just brazenly unloading pot bales like right on the port of Miami.
I had smugglers that said that they would go out to the mothership and just put the pot bales on the bow of the boat, didn't even cover them up, and just run right in.
Right. Crazy.
You
Weren't
know,
you paying off cops too?
In Jamaica, we did, but
well, that's easy to do.
Yeah, but in the United States, I've never paid any cops off in the United States.
So you got did any of the loads get damaged from water?
We wrapped them. On 1,800 pounds, there would be about 140 pounds of plastic.
Right.
140 pounds of plastic.
Wow.
That we wrap these things in.
So tight. Trying to make them waterproof.
Yeah. I mean, over and over. If you thought it was good, you did it again.
Right.
I mean, 140 pounds when, you know, that's a lot of plastic to wrap.
Wow. That's wild.
I've weighed it before.
140 pounds on 1,800 pounds. So you just add another.
Cut it off and
how much does one bale weigh?
About 20 pounds. We kept them. You know, we didn't. You see, a lot of people make bigger bale. A 50-pound bale. Some people can't
lift 50 pounds.
50 pounds. So 20 is good.
Wow.
20 is the right size.
So everything, you got the bales off the sinking boat and nothing was damaged.
Yeah. We wrapped them. We had a press, and those Jamaicans would, you know, like an old timey wooden press, and we had to turn a wheel, and they'd press that down in there, and we cut it and clip it and get it just right.
So you get that last load off. You know, you sell your last 1,800 pounds of Jamaican Indica. You make your $1 million.
Everything's cool, man.
Yeah. Why not get out of the game?
Yeah. I basically got out of the growing game.
Right.
We didn't get out of the game. We got out of the bin farmers.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, spend 3 months in 100-degree weather where you're sweating, even at 9 o'clock at night, sweat running off your nose at 9 o'clock at night, you know, it gets old.
Yeah. Yeah. I never had any interest, even in the height of my trafficking days, to grow pot.
At 12 years old, I've had probably 100 different grows. I did this grow, and it was great, man. It was great. And then we thought we was going to make it. And then in the South, they have dove hunters. Okay. The dove hunters went out hunting doves and found our field.
Oh, wow.
So that one is gone. We finally, when I was a little kid, like 14 or 15, I'd grown about 40 pounds, and we had it in a barn, letting it dry, hanging from the rafters there. And there was cows there, but they kept the cows out. But it was starting to be like October. And so the guy, my buddy, his little brother, he went and opened up the gate and let the cows in the barn because it was going to be cold that night.
Yeah.
Well, what'd they do? They stood on their hind legs and ate as high as they could up on our, and when we walked in the next day, our 40 pounds was down to a pound.
They all ate all that weed?
They ate every stick of that weed.
High as
Why'd you do it? Well, I didn't know they'd eat that pot.
Yeah.
They ate our pot. Deers, rabbits. Oh, man, I would take trays of indica seed and give them to farmers and say, look, you plant this, let me know when you've got it dried, I'll come buy your whole load. I would provide the crop to them. They'd grow it and then sell it to me, you know.
Yeah, that's the way to do
and
it.
we did that for years and years and years.
So you're a millionaire now, and you're out of the growing business. No more farming, no more growing, no more headaches, right?
Yeah.
You're just going to be your grandfather.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a price. I'm going to buy it and sell it for a markup.
Yeah.
The middleman.
Yeah.
What's your next play? Now you got to find a supplier because you're not your own supplier anymore. Who did you start working with after that?
I started working with a guy out of Nashville. His name was Tony D, and he's passed away now. But I'd go to Nashville, and I always used point people. I wasn't a point guy.
What's a point person?
You're a point guy.
I'm not a point guy.
I'm gonna make you into one.
Oh, okay. Oh,
All right.
Exciting.
So this is what I would do. I'd get point people. Point people were people that had gall and guts and could talk to anybody and weren't afraid to go into a foreign country or talk to foreign people or anything, but they had no money to back it up. So the point people would go make the contacts. Once they made the contact, then I would supply the money.
Right.
They would buffer me between.
So you were they were the fixer.
Yeah, like my buddy David. My buddy David, he originally got our cocaine connection going in Florida. My buddy David got the plants started growing in Jamaica. This buddy Tony got the Houston connection going.
So these are just people. The point person is the person you send in first on the ground, the infantryman, first over the hill of the trench.
The point of the spear.
Yeah, the guy and the most dangerous part. And he basically makes sure that everything's cool, everything's safe, and then you come in with the money.
Right.
Do you ever meet your suppliers, or do you always use the point person?
I never met my, there was the Mexican supplier's name over there was Pablo. Polo was his name, and I never met him, but Tony did.
So you just have the accounts. You're just the salesperson who
I'm transportation and distribution,
right?
And I'm the one that made the money right. A lot of these guys, they would do their first load, and they would make all this money, and then they would let their worst habits come into effect.
Right.
Their deepest, baddest things, cocaine, whores, crack, and they weren't reliable, So my point people would be reliable for about a year or two, and they would still be my point people, but I didn't let them touch money.
Right. So how would you transport? Did you have couriers?
Yeah, we had about 3 or 4 guys that would bring it up in the trunks of their car. I had a Mercedes-Benz SL 500 that I could compress pot Using the back seat, I could get 800 pounds in one load.
In one Mercedes.
In one Mercedes. I had that stacked around me. Inside the car, in the trunk, everywhere. There wasn't, I could barely, I had enough room I could drive.
Was the muffler not scraping against the ground?
No, but it was close. It was a real good car.
Wow. And would you be driving? Or
Yeah, I drove.
Oh, so you drove the load yourself?
Oh, yeah.
And you never got pulled over? You never had a problem with the state troopers?
Well, we used to get outfits, get up stuff, but we had bought Border Patrol uniforms.
Wow. Okay. I like this. You bought Border Patrol uniforms. Actual ones? Or you went to like
real actual Border Patrol uniforms.
How do you buy a Border Patrol uniform? Who do you go to?
Through they had them in San Antonio at Army Surplus.
Wow. So like going to like a cop store or
Yeah,
something like that.
we went to a cop store.
Wow.
Okay.
Do you have to show ID? Like how do you do that?
No.
Especially not back then,
Yeah,
right?
not back then. So anyway, we were in my Mercedes, and I always drove, and Tony was riding with me, and we had, I think we had like 200 or 300 pounds in the trunk. All right, but nothing in the cab, in the inside. And so we stopped. Tony always liked to have coffee. And so we stopped at McDonald's, and for some reason he wanted to drive. And I don't know. So instead of fixing his coffee right then and there at McDonald's and stirring it up, we go through the drive-thru and we pull on the road, and he starts, doing his creamer and holding the coffee cup between his legs, and he does the creamer and the sugar. And I mean,
buddy, you got 300 pounds in the trunk. Maybe 10 and 2, please.
And he's driving with his hot cup of coffee between his legs, and he spills it, burns his nuts.
Mm-hmm.
He swerves. Okay? There's a Texas Highway Patrol behind us. Whoa! I'm in the passenger seat. And I reached down there and I put me a Border Patrol hat on. Wow. I am straight. I look so straight. Yeah. I look like I do now. Yeah. I never grew long hair or beard or nothing.
No, you look like a total civilian, total square.
Boy, I've got stories about that. I used to carry this dog out of people. They wouldn't do business with me. Okay, so anyway, so we're pulled over by a Texas Highway Patrolman right after we were coming from Houston, and it was right after we passed Interstate 20 going north. Interstate 20 runs east and west. We passed it, and at that McDonald's at the exit, and we got pulled over, and Tony's going, oh. And so I put the Border Patrol hat on. I just didn't know what else to do. So the cop comes over, stops us, and he gets out of his vehicle, and he leans in. And he looks at Tony and said, I need your ID, driver's license, and your, insurance card, registration, And then he looks at me, and he speaks into this microphone on his lapel. He said, I don't need any backup. It's one of us.
Nice, dude. Nice.
I don't need any backup. It's one of us.
Wow.
So Tony gets out of the car. The cop, his pants are wet at his crotch. Mm-hmm. The seat of my Mercedes is wet. He looks at the cop and he said, I spilled coffee on my nuts. Hot coffee, and that's why I swerved. The cop just laughed. He cut us loose, man.
Wow. Border Patrol driving a brand new Mercedes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know they get paid so well.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a trick I used to do when I was running. I would put like army stickers on the back of the car.
Yeah.
Just little things like that. There's a kinship with the cops and the military, you know.
We would do when we were coming out of Florida. We had on every one of our cars. We had Florida's sheriff boys home.
Is that
They
like an
have a
organ?
boys home. The sheriffs of Florida have a boys home, and you buy and you put a little sticker on the
Right.
back of your car.
Is that like an organization,
Yeah,
like a
it's
sheriff's fraternity or something like
you
that?
Check it out here.
Wow. And so all the times running those loads, you got them through every time.
Yeah.
Wow. So what are we now that you're not growing indica, you're back to moving sativa?
Yeah.
Did that affect your market at all, your buyers or anything like that? Did you have to make new accounts now that, because people get used to, people in different
They're going to
markets.
smoke what's available.
Right.
Look, pot is everywhere today. Pot is everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
When I was growing up, there wasn't no pot. Nobody had pot.
Yeah.
If you had pot, it was going to sell, no matter what it was.
Right.
It could be dirt weed, it'd sell.
Right.
It could 1 ounce of marijuana could hold 14 grams of seeds, and it would still sell.
Still sell. Yeah. There's a total demand and lack of supply. Best time to be a drug dealer. You boomers had it so good. You don't even know.
When I was a little kid, I told my mom I wanted to, be a baseball player. And she said, why? And I said, well, they only play 4 or 5 months and they get the rest of the year off. Okay? So when I first got in the weed business, it was just like that, man. We would start whaling in October, and the last load would come in the last of May, and we would take June, July, August, and September off. We just acted like we were on vacation for 4 months. We'd make enough money in 8 months to live for 4 more.
Yeah. Yeah.
But sometimes coming October, we were getting pretty skinny.
Yeah, right. Because you don't have enough dope to sell.
Or money.
Right.
Yeah.
So were you saving any, or were you just blowing it?
I did, I did save some, here and there.
So you're now running for Mexicans. Those are the new suppliers, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Either we were coming out of San Antonio with a bunch of Mexicans down there. There was about 6 or 8 guys that would supply us out of San Antonio, and then this one guy would supply us out of Houston.
Okay.
So I was either getting loads out of San Antonio or Houston.
How much were you picking up at a time?
Oh, like I say, anywhere from 200 to 800 pounds.
Wow. 800 pounds. Would you, if you picked up 800, would you get a better price? Like, was there a price break after a certain quantity?
Yeah, well, back then we were buying it for 600 and selling it for 900.
Okay, so you're 600 a pound, flipping it for 9.
Yeah.
Selling 800.
100-pound lots.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So okay.
And they were selling it for 12.
Right. So you're only making $300 profit.
Yeah. But if you're doing 1,000 a month.
Yeah. 300,000 a month.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is $1 million, multi-million-dollar a year enterprise.
A lot of work, a lot of driving.
Right.
Yeah. Seeing a lot of people collecting a lot of money.
How many different workers, how many different distributors after you move a load from your suppliers, how many different people did you have running for you? Like taking it back to their markets?
Oh, 20 guys.
Wow.
20 different people going in all kinds of different directions.
Yeah.
Okay, let me tell you. This was in the day where there was no cell phone, no GPS. Okay, how in the world do you keep up with a couple of hundred guys that might be calling you from Jamaica, Miami, Nashville, San Antonio, Houston, San Diego, all these people calling. How in the world? Plus, I'm traveling, staying in a different hotel every night.
Yeah.
How do I make this work? When I was in the computer business, we had a toll-free 1-800 number. You guys don't even know anything about long-distance charges, do you?
I do. I remember. Yeah, I couldn't call grandma in Canada.
Or else your dad would beat the
for more than 10 minutes. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Anyway, it was that way. All right. So when you'd make a telephone call, you'd spend $12.
Right. Just to call down to Jamaica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Jamaica was 16. Houston and them were like $2.50 to $4.
Wow.
Every time, 3 minutes.
Mhm.
3 minutes. Okay. So what I did was, when I was working for this major international computer organization, I had a roommate that worked there with me. Okay. And his name was, let's just say his name was Bob Black. All right. And so he ran the customer hotline. All right. And so there was about, I don't know, 50 people in his department. Okay. And so one of my guys would call up and ask on a 1-800, he would put 1/4, bing, dial 1-800, and the quarter would pop back up. It didn't cost him a penny to call me.
Nice. Yeah.
Not one. He had to have a quarter to make it ring, but the quarter would pop back out. And he'd say, I need to speak to Mr. Black. And I said, instead of taking up this guy's time, you just, when you talk to Mr. Black, you give him a telephone number that you're going to be at and what time, Eastern Standard Time, you're going to be there.
Wow.
Okay? So all day long, Mr. Black would take calls from me. He didn't get numbers. He didn't get names. No names.
Wow.
I said, when you talk to Mr. Black, you speak area code 205, blah, 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 7 o'clock, Eastern Standard Time. It was all Eastern Standard Time, no matter where they live.
Right.
Okay. So what I would do is at 5 o'clock, I'd call Mr. Black. Mr. Black would take these calls and he would put them in order of time that I needed to return the call. So the first call would be at 6 o'clock, second call 7, next call 8, next call 8:30, next call 9, next call 9:30, next call 10.
So he was your secretary.
He handled all the communication.
Right. So if one of your buyers needs 100 pounds and he's in Ohio, he would call Mr. Black and say, I need to speak to Steve.
All he'd say was he would give him his phone number and what time he was going to be at that payphone, Eastern Standard Time. Only 2 things.
Wow.
I want your phone number and what time.
Yeah. And then you would call every night, you would call Mr. Black, get that phone number, and then you would find whatever phone you could, a pay phone, a phone in a hotel you were staying in, and you would call.
And all these people,
Holy
that I called were standing at payphones.
Yeah.
Every one of them.
Waiting. Man, you're a dinosaur. No, I'm just kidding. That is unbelievable. I mean, this was only 30 years ago, but the world is completely
40,
different.
Probably 40, yeah. You see, the thing about it is,
almost 40, yeah. Early 90s.
I knew people, down Florida, they'd call somebody in Ohio, and then the guy in Ohio would get in trouble, or the guy in Florida, and then both of them be in trouble.
Right.
Because they're talking to each other all the time, 3 or 4 times a day.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody ever talked to me, except when I called them back on a pay phone.
Wow. You literally protected yourself from wiretaps, police raids. I mean, you were thorough, Steve. So
I gave up profit to a point man so I wouldn't have to meet the supplier.
Yeah.
I didn't care about meeting the supplier.
Yeah. And your distributors, the feds could never get a wiretap on them because they never knew where the calls were going to be going.
Yeah.
Because they were on payphones.
Yeah.
Wow.
Calling an 800 number to a corporation that had 100,000 employees.
Right.
How are you going to shake down 100,000 employees?
How much would you pay Bob Black for being your secretary?
His rent.
Nice. Good deal.
Oh, wow. His rent kept going up. He would move. It started out in an apartment for $800 a month.
Yeah.
And then he said, "Hey man, I'd really like to have a house." So he rented a house.
Kept upgrading. Yeah. Okay. Wow. And this system worked pretty much flawlessly.
Yeah.
For how long? How long were you running after Jamaica? Were you running your loads out of Texas to the rest of America?
About 3 or 4 years.
Making millions.
Yeah.
And you're back living in Georgia?
Yeah.
Okay. In the town you grew up in?
Yeah.
Wow. You're just a small town boy still. Like it's so weird because you have this thirst for adventure, yet you love home.
Yeah. Well, I was protected there. You know, when I got busted with that 400 pounds at my house in the valley, there was a news crew that came to the local feed and seed. Do you know what feed and seed is?
Mm-mm.
It's where farmers go to buy their feed and their seed and, you know, stuff like that, you know. And in this particular feed and seed, this guy was wealthy and he'd bought a bunch of barber chairs, okay? And these farmers all sitting around in these barber chairs, you know, and they go, well, what about old Steve Daniel up there on the hill up there? They got 400 pounds from him. And they go, oh, hell, he's been doing that for 10 years. You know, everybody around here knows what he does.
Oh, he told it to a cop.
Huh?
How did that? So everybody in the town.
No.
You're just saying like you were known.
A news crew came down and were interviewing locals in the little town that I grew up, and they said, "Well, hell, everybody knows what he does. He's been doing it for 10 years. Right. What are you talking about?"
So everybody in the town knew you as this big pot kingpin.
Yeah.
But nobody told. It was just an accepted part of life. It was kind of like, this guy's a cattleman.
Yeah.
This guy's got a job at the plant. Yeah. This guy owns a feedlot, and Steve sells weed. It's weird too, because you think like small town Southern culture is very like law and order, but it's not really like that. It's actually outlaw.
Outlaws.
You guys distrust the federal government.
Oh yeah,
and big government.
Yeah, and
so you want to protect your own. It's very clannish in a way.
Yeah, the county next to me didn't even come back into the Union until 1963.
Right. They were mad about the Civil War.
No, it was called the State of Dade. They didn't come back into the Union.
Wow.
Until they didn't look. You think this is funny? They didn't come back into the Union. Guess what? Every road in that county was dirt because the government wouldn't pave any roads because they didn't recognize the federal government.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good. Hey, I guess you get what you pay for, but like. Yeah, it's good for you.
Yeah.
Because government men aren't coming in there.
No.
So when did you get arrested for the first time? Tell us about that. You said it was with 400 pounds?
No, actually the first time, okay, in one of your podcasts, you talk about the drought. Mm-hmm. The drought will make people do stupid things.
Yeah. Tell us what the drought is.
The drought is that period of time when the last load is sold, sometime about June 15th, till the first load gets here sometime in October 15th. Mm-hmm. It's that drought in the summer when you spend the 4th of July and nobody has pot. Mm-hmm. The 4th of July and you can't even smoke a joint. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's the drought. Mm-hmm. And the drought to a dealer where all these people are calling wanting weed, it's just, it's just crazy. They'll go out and do stupid to try to get weed for stupid people. So that's what I did. I went to a party and there was a guy there and we were doing cocaine, and I said, I'm, not that much into cocaine. I'd like to have some weed, some marijuana. And so he said, I'll get you where you live. And I told him, he said, I'll bring a pound over. So he brought a pound over and we sat and smoked and everything, and I said, well, let me have that pound. He said, no, man, I've got this promise to somebody. Okay. Tomorrow I'll bring you some pot. I'll bring you 100 pounds tomorrow.
Whoa.
Yeah.
During the drought.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's rare.
I went, all right. I said, what is it? He said, this is a load coming out of Alabama, Dothan, Alabama. I know the guy, and tomorrow he's supposed to come up and bring me 100 pounds, so I'll have all the weed you want to buy tomorrow. Okay? And so I was going to pay him $900 a pound for this weed,
Right.
90 grand. All right. And so the Chattanooga Police Department back then, they used less than honest people to work for them as confidential informants.
Mm-hmm.
And they got paid when you got busted. So when I got busted with 90 grand, that son of a bitch that ratted me out got 30 of it.
Wow.
And the cops got the rest.
So they busted you
For
buying the 100 pounds.
But it wasn't, it was a setup. It was
Right.
reverse sting.
A reverse sting.
Yeah.
So did they even wait for the pot to get there before they arrested you?
This is what happened. He brought in that pound, all right, and then they had a couple of bales rolled up, taped up, and so the guy rolled up, the confidential informant rolled up, and he was the guy. He said, "Look," he said, "these are the guys from Dothan. They wanted to come to make sure that I wasn't going to rip them off or anything." And so they brought in these 2 bales, okay, and 50 pounds each, supposedly, okay. So I had this knife I always used. It was a Gerber knife, and I popped open this knife, and I cut a bale open, and I looked at it, and I said, "Yeah, this will work." And the guy standing there, supposedly from Dothan, says, "Hey, let me look at that knife." I hand him the knife, and he says, "You're under arrest."
Whoa. That scared the shit out of you?
That was it, man. I
Wow.
was popped.
So what happened? How much
Well-
time did you get for that?
They were supposed to record me, and the recording didn't work.
Mm.
All right. I bought the best criminal attorney I could, Leroy Phillips at the time. And back in the day, I paid him 15 grand, and we pleaded out. I lost my 90,000. I had to give that up.
Right.
That was gone. But what we did was I had to plead guilty to since the reverse. I didn't have pot. The cops had the pot.
Mhm.
Okay. So he argued that reverse, and I did 45 days on 100 pounds.
Wow.
But I took a felony.
Sure. You could do a lot worse, though. 45
And it
days.
was unsupervised release.
Okay. So you got out. You did a county jail
45 days.
catnap, we call that.
Yeah.
Now you're on probation, though, and you got a felony. So now you got a sheet. Next time you get caught,
Yeah, but it's
it's going to be a little more
bad.
serious.
Yeah, it's gonna be
When is tell us about the big case that ultimately led to the federal indictment?
We were bringing pot out of San Antonio, and while
How long is this after your first arrest? by the way?
about 6 months.
Okay. And did you slow down after that? Or when you got out, did you get right back in the game?
Well, I was waiting for the next load to come
Yeah,
in,
right.
so it's about 6 months.
Yeah.
I think I went in jail after Easter and got out sometime in June or July.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so I was kind of waiting around, and I had an opportunity later on to get a load out of Texas, and one of the guys that I befriended in county jail, he was Richard Davis is his name, and they called him Richie Rich. And he was a real young guy, had a Corvette, could sling weed, right and left. Anyway, he was in county lockup. So when he got out of lockup, he came to visit me. All right. And so I gave him 20 pounds. He sold it, and back and forth, a few little deals, Well, I get in 1,100 pounds, and he comes over to the house, and he said, man, I need to pick me up like 20 pounds. I said, oh, man, come, some other day.
Yeah. Come at me with some real money.
Yeah, come out, some other day. And he said, no, man, come on, help me out. So I was busy, and I made the mistake of saying, come on, follow me. So he followed me down to my main house with my detached apartment. I was living in a rental house in Chattanooga.
Right.
Okay. Trying to keep things separate.
Yeah.
So I made the mistake of letting him follow me down. And what happened was I fronted him like 20 pounds, and he got busted that night. And he ratted me out.
Okay. So he tells the cops, and then did they build a larger case?
Yeah.
Like how did it end up getting the FBI and the feds involved?
Well, with that weight, it went federal.
Okay. So how long after they busted him did you get busted?
Oh, like the next day.
Okay. So they got a warrant and they raided. Did they find the 1,100 pounds?
No, they raided my house in Chattanooga, arrested me there. And then while they had me sitting on the side of the bed, they said, oh, by the way, we went to your house in the valley. I went, all right. But I'd moved out. I had 11 and moved out 7 the day before.
Oh, okay. So they only got 400.
Yeah.
Okay. So 400 pounds, you get charged in federal court.
Yeah.
But you only did, I think, 5 months or something like that?
Yeah. There is an attorney in Georgia that's real famous.
I saw him on TV the other day.
You saw him on TV. His name is Stephen Sadow, and he has represented every rapper, every doper in Atlanta. Right now, he's representing a guy by the name of Donald Trump.
I heard of that guy.
You heard Donald Trump? Yeah,
big time pot dealer back in the day.
Well, yeah, Donald's using, Donald's got a criminal case, so he had to get a criminal attorney. So he got Stephen Sadow, the one I used. And Stephen Sadow had my case moved from Atlanta, where there was a very hostile prosecutor, to Alabama. And lo and behold, in Alabama, the prosecutor there met with us and said, we really don't want to put you in jail. We just want everything that you've got. All your houses, all your cars, all your jewelry, all your bank accounts.
Wow.
Everything that you've got. That's what we want. And we're going to put you under a 5-year special probation where you leave the house at 7 in the morning, have to be at home at 7 o'clock at night. You cannot leave your area unless you get it done. So one time I was going to have to go to, I wanted to go to Panama City with my girlfriend. And so I put in the paperwork. I left Chattanooga. First thing I was supposed to do is when I got to Panama City, report to the police station, tell them that a bad guy was in town and that I was staying at a hotel and what the hotel was, my room number, everything. And then when I left, I had to tell the Panama City police that a bad guy was leaving and that I was going back to Chattanooga.
Yeah.
It sucked, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, you get to go to Panama.
And they also put in there a little special provision that if I did anything wrong, a DUI, anything wrong in the next 5 years, they would send me back to 100% of my probation.
What was the time you could have got? So this is like a suspended sentence.
Steve said I was looking at 15 years.
Right.
Yeah.
So I doubt you would have done that much time, maybe. But so what did you end up forfeiting to the feds?
I forfeited 2 houses, a Mercedes, a Harley, $30,000 one bank account, $90,000 another bank account, a Rolex watch, Just a bunch of stuff. They wanted everything I had.
And did they get it?
Just about.
Right.
I was able to put some land into a buddy of mine's. When I got busted, I put some unimproved land into a buddy of mine's house. They asked me about it. I just started making payments on that land so that it'd slide. They didn't want to make payments on it. And then I put a house in my mom's name.
Right. So they basically wiped you out.
Yeah.
More or less. You spent how long on probation?
5 years.
5 long years. Did you get a job?
Yeah, I got a job.
Doing what?
Hey, I have a college education. So in Y2K, I went back to work for IBM.
Okay. Your old computer gig.
Yeah, my old computer gig. Yeah.
All right. So you're like about 40 years old.
It's June. I'm 40, 41, and it's June of 1998, and Y2K is coming in 99, you know.
So, and you haven't had an honest job since your computer days,
right.
20 years before.
In 74, 75, 76.
Okay.
That was the last time I had a real job.
Yeah.
77 maybe.
So what were you doing for IBM the second time?
Selling the Y2K. All the computers were going to quit, come year 2000. So I had about 50 customers. My buddy had about 50 customers, and I was selling the AS400 with enterprise software for wholesale distributors, and I made about $5,000 on each sale. Okay, and there was 50 sales, so I made like $250,000
in 1 year.
Yeah, that in '99, and then about March of 2000, he came to me and said, "You're done."
Yeah, it turns out my computer's still working.
Yeah,
remember that scare tactic?
Yeah.
What a grift! That was unbelievable.
Listen, my last 3 or 4 sales, I called the people up and they said, "I haven't even looked at the contract yet." And I said, "Contract?" I said, "We've got a board on the wall. And when your check clears the bank, we put your name to be installed. Otherwise, we don't care about no contracts."
Yeah.
Buddy, that was the easiest sales I ever made.
Easiest.
They were popping them in.
Yeah. So you're a natural salesman. You were great at anything you did when it came to making money. So you made $250,000 your first year on probation, second year on probation or whatever. What did you say great? Like, did that give you the confidence to go forward in the legal world, or were you itching to get back into the hustle? No.
After that, as far as hustle, starting in, I got everything squared up, June of '98. Before I went to work for IBM, though, I had one problem that I had to solve, and that was a $580,000 tax lien.
On what?
On me. Back taxes.
Wow. From the government? From the DEA?
Yeah, from marijuana sales. Okay. So I'm about a week before I'm supposed to go to prison. The IRS, the special agent out of Rome, Georgia, calls and says, "Man, you owe $580,000. And I said, "Yeah, and I'm going to square that up as soon as possible." And she said, "You are?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, I'll meet you. She said, "I will meet you anytime, any place." I said, "That is perfect, because I need your full name and your address, and I need your mom's maiden name." And she said, "Why do you need all this stuff?" "To put on my federal visitation application. If you want to come see me, I'm going to be in federal prison, and I've got to get you, cleared to come see me." She said, "You," and I said, "Well, you." I said, "I'm not going to have too many visitors, and I'd sure like a good woman to come visit me in prison."
So you never gave her that check?
No, never got that check.
What happened? Do you still pay restitution? Do they forget about it?
What happened is I hired an attorney, and he got it knocked down to $58,000. And I told him, "I'm not going to pay $58,000. He said, "Well, go get the worst job you can get." So I went and got a warehouse job for $7.50 an hour.
Did that crush your spirit working for $7.50 an hour when you are used to making millions of dollars a month?
Well, I didn't want to pay the $580,000, so
But it's at $58,000, Steve.
Yeah, but the 58 was just, I wanted it gone. I felt like I told the girl, I said, "You give me back my 400 pounds, and I'll pay your IRS.
Mm-hmm.
I can't get that pot back for you."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "You are charging me income on weed I don't have.
Yeah.
How's that fair?"
Yeah, right.
I mean,
You're already taking my life. You took all my assets.
you're acting like I sold that 400 pounds instead of it getting confiscated.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And you're charging me income on stuff I didn't make.
Mm-hmm. So what have you done with the rest of your life? You go to prison, you get out, you do your stretch.
Yeah.
What's the next 20 years look like for you?
Oh, well, I married in 2002. I married the straightest girl you could ever imagine. And for the next 10 years, I went to church, didn't do anything. Just didn't do anything. She and I divorced in 2012. And during that period of time, I watched a movie, and the name of the movie was Saving Grace. All right. And it was about an old English broad that had lived in a mansion her entire life and was married to aristocratic person. And he gets killed. She finds out that he has mortgaged her estate and she's fixing to lose it. So her and the gardener decide to grow pot to save the estate. Well, they grow pot. They're selling it to a gang in London. The London gang decides to rob her. The police decide to bust her. Everybody comes to her house at one time. She gets arrested. She writes a book on how to grow marijuana, makes $1 million, saves the mansion. I'm sitting at Harley Davidson making less money than I did in the 8th or 9th grade. And I'm thinking, I'll just write a book. I'll write a book to save, to get some of my money back,
Yeah.
So I sat down and I tried to write a book that's the best weed book ever. Kind of like a combination of Hunter S. Thompson, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas meets the weed world of Forrest Gump.
Yeah. That's a great description. Indica, folks, go read Indica. I read it. I breezed through it in like 2 days. It's sex, drugs, money, rock and roll, freedom, adventure. It really it embodies the spirit of that time, and I think gives us a even better idea into who you are, a better look into who you are, which is just a man that wanted adventure.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, does that describe you?
Yeah. When I was growing up, one of my favorite TV shows was, about spies. And so I would watch these spy movies and see how they did dead drops and all this kind of. And so what I did, starting from about age 8 or 9, I'd have the front story and then I have the back story. I'm gonna go, Mom, I'm gonna go see Billy Jones who lives up the street. Oh, okay. Now you be sure you go there. We might call us here to make sure you're there. Well, on the way to Billy's, I'd see 4 or 5 of my other buddies that my mom and dad wouldn't want me to see. I'd go to Billy's. She'd call. I'm there. Everything's cool. On the way back, I'd see 4 or 5 of my buddies that my mom didn't want to see. So you always had the front story and the back story.
You always were thinking like that. You've always thought like a crook a little bit.
Yeah. Secret Agent Man was the name of it.
What have you been after all this time?
Adventure.
Really?
I tell you, there's nothing like doing a deal, man. You know that.
Yeah.
Counting the money, thinking, man, this is so cool. I don't have to work to live.
Yeah. Every time you got a load of 800 pounds through.
And start counting that money out.
Yeah. Did you feel like you had your adventure? Do you feel like you want more?
No, I've had more adventures. I've done over 20,000 drug crimes. Over 20,000 drug crimes. I've only been caught for 2.
Unbelievable success.
Yeah.
You're one of the most successful drug dealers we've ever talked to. You made more money and did less time than I think anyone that we've ever had on this show and anyone I've ever met. And the odds of getting away with moving, over the course of your career, how many pounds do you think you moved?
I was thinking the other day, I've probably sold over 100,000 pounds of pot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been doing it for 60 years.
You're a lifer.
Yeah.
You're a lifer.
In the book, I basically describe 2 of the drug rings that I was involved in. But I was involved in 12 or 13 drug rings.
Yeah.
Multiple drug rings. Sometimes I worked with 3 different drug rings in 1 week.
Yeah.
1 week.
Meaning you had different suppliers and
different point people.
Yeah, and different distributors for people on the other end.
Yeah.
People that you were giving it to. And the odds of getting away with that over 6 decades and only doing 5 months in prison are minuscule.
When I was in the computer business, I had this ranch-style house secluded on top of a hill, okay? And I would be working, and people would say, they'd call up and say, hey, man, I need to get 100 pounds. I'm at work. So I'd call this other guy. Hey, you got that weed? Yeah. So-and-so wants 100 pounds. I said, meet him at my house. All right? They'd meet. And then leave me like, I'd make like $100 on every pound and never leave my office.
Yeah.
I make, 10 grand in one day.
Yeah.
And they just leave it under my doorstep.
Just middlemaning.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just phone calls.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Steve, unbelievable. You have an amazing story, an amazing spirit. Plug the book. Tell people where they can find the book.
You can find my book at Amazon. You type in Indica, Indica, Steve Daniel, and my book pops up. This book takes me from the time I'm 12 until I'm about 38 years old. So this book has a lot going for it. I think it's the best weed book ever.
I agree with you. Steve, thank you so much. We're going to switch over to the Patreon now and talk some more war stories. Thank you so much for coming on here. Everybody run out and buy Indica and then buy Indica. Smoke some Indica and read Indica, right?
Right.
And thank you so much. Patreon.com/TheConnectShow is the Patreon account where you can hear our bonus episode. Steve, thank you so much, brother.
Thank you.
Talk to you later. Thanks, guys.
Bye.